On the tennis court, John McEnroe was as famous for his foul-mouthed temper tantrums as he was for his mesmerising play. His nickname, Super Brat, couldn't have been more appropriate. Today, at 59, the former ace claims he's mellowed. But having just spent time with him in New York, I'm not so sure. He's as feisty as ever, with a scathing assessment of the current state of tennis. In McEnroe speak, if it's to survive, the game needs an urgent injection of aggro, which should be welcome news for Australia's very own pin-up of petulance, Nick Kyrgios.
All right, Liam, John McEnroe Gallery.
At his private art gallery in Soho, New York,
I like things that sort of provoke some thought.
John McEnroe is in his element.
I mean, I love, Vincent van Gogh, and Picasso's the greatest ever, and he's like Rod Laver.
It's hard to relate this smooth-talking art connoisseur.
You look at this every day, you start to get more and more appreciation for it.
Answer my question!
With the hot-headed,
The question, jerk!
foul-mouthed, Super Brat
This is absurd! I can't believe this!
we all knew so well. It's not the obvious transition, is it? From pro tennis player to art dealer.
Well, actually, I relate to artists quite a bit.
At 59, McEnroe credits both music and art for helping soothe a savage beast. What's the proudest piece that you've ever owned?
The proudest piece that I've ever owned. I don't know, I can't name one. That's like saying, what was my favorite tennis moment?
Okay.
It's hard to pinpoint one is what I'm saying. So there's you like art for different reasons at different times of your life. So I can't answer that. I refuse to answer that!
It was Wimbledon, 1977, when a young McEnroe first exploded on the scene. The 18-year-old rookie stunning crowds with his big hair, big game, and even bigger mouth.
Is anyone playing the ball? I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Did tennis bring out the best in you or the worst?
Both, but more good than bad.
You reckon you tip the scales the right way?
You ask me, maybe you go interview someone else and they give you a different answer. But, to me, I would give it 80, 90% positive. It doesn't mean that I didn't make an ass out of myself at times or go overboard. I'm not claiming that I didn't.
You blew up better than the rest. Come on.
I think Connors was right up there with me, if not worse. But, I'm sure that I'm one of the all-time greats at that.
With his famous catchphrase,
You cannot be serious!
McEnroe's hunger, passion, and killer instincts sparked some of the sport's most intense rivalries. His fire and ice clashes with Swedish champ Bjorn Borg engaged and enraged fans across the world. Even today, a marathon five-setter the pair played at Wimbledon in 1980 is still considered the greatest match ever. What was it about the contest between you and Borg that captured people's imagination?
I don't know exactly, but it was just it's the way he looked compared to the way I was. Lefty, righty, style of play, personality.
He has said publicly he loves you.
I love him.
It's a match made in heaven.
We get along. He's the only guy I think that I played that I didn't have a problem with at one point or another. We keep saying, who's the next guy? And I think we found that guy right.
These days, McEnroe prefers to look forward rather than backwards. He's redefined himself as a talented commentator and makes no secret of his belief that the game is becoming too dull and boring. How do you see the state of tennis today?
Problematic. I think we've gone through an era where the greatest players that ever lived have played. With all due respect to my idol, Rod Laver, but, Federer and Nadal, Djokovic, this is a whole new league, and it doesn't seem like we've taken advantage of that in terms of popularity of the sport.
So how do you fix that? Because there's a lot more competition these days.
You know, one of my biggest goals when I came into the sport was I quickly could see that it was, you know, not enough people that could afford to play it, and I wanted to change that. One of the reasons why I was surprised when people would get so angry when I, you know, yell at an official or get in an argument was that they were doing that all the time in all the other sports, but yet we were looked at in a different way. Oh, it's a country club sport, you can't do that. And I wanted tennis to sort of be looked at in the same way as the other top sports.
But you think it's still too elitist?
Yeah. Don't just push it, go for it, okay? Come on.
Far from turning his back on a sport that gave him so much, McEnroe is instead giving back.
Use your legs.
At his tennis academy on New York's Randall Island, he's coaching the next generation of champions.
Go out there, John Henry, think about the way that you can improve upon what happened.
Many of them kids who otherwise couldn't afford to play.
Have some fun. Liam, this is what I want. I want someone that wins the U.S. Open or Wimbledon, you know, that comes up from Harlem or one of these inner, you know, parts of the city that you never would have thought, like the Serena and Venus Williams story. I mean, they came from a tough part of L.A. and their father decided they were going to be a tennis player, and somehow they're two of the greatest players that ever lived. So it would be nice.
That's an amazing story.
You know, I've sort of been lucky. I've ran into some great people along the way. The inspirational Harry Hopman, who was a mentor. I want to sort of be that person for some young kids, hopefully.
Some of these kids would be too frightened to talk back to you, wouldn't they?
Hopefully. That's the idea. What are you guys working on today?
Working on controlling our emotions.
Perhaps not surprisingly, at McEnroe's School of Hard Knocks,
Sometimes it's hard not to get mad, though, right?
Or maybe
I don't know anything about that, getting mad, but
blowing up at the umpire isn't exactly discouraged.
You God Almighty up there or something?
You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter and I stand what's right for her and I've never cheated.
John, what did you make of the extraordinary attack on the umpire by Serena Williams?
I didn't think it was that extraordinary, but, you know, I mean, I've done worse myself, so, you know, to me, it's, I think that they both screwed up, personally. You know, I mean, I think she went too far. I mean, she obviously was getting her derriere kicked.
You are the liar. And you stole a point from me. You're a thief, too.
Code violation, verbal abuse, gang penalty, Mrs. Williams.
We talk about encouraging kids to take up the game. You know, what does that say to aspiring champions watching?
Look at the world that we live in, and you're going to sit there and tell me what Serena Williams did on the court is comparable to the insanity that we're living in right now? I mean, come on. Give me a break.
You owe me an apology. You will never, ever, ever be on another court of mine as long as you live.
She told the umpire, Carlos Ramos, that he would never, ever have another game on her court.
I've said that. Didn't work. I've said, you'll never do another match of mine. And then I'm like, there he is again. I think the guy that should be encouraged and promoted would be the guy that got off the chair and tried to help Kyrgios. That guy should be applauded.
I still see that. I know this is not easy. I know that. I want to help you,
Australia's own bad boy of tennis, Nick Kyrgios,
5-4 Sebi, third set, and the racket goes.
has found an unlikely friend in the original Super Brat. You like Kyrgios, don't you? Because you see a little bit of yourself.
I like him a lot. I mean, I think he's a great kid, and you know, but and I think that he's one of the most. Actually, I think he's the most talented tennis player that I've seen in 10 years.
But the difference between Kyrgios's tantrums and yours is that you backed it up with winning slams.
Well, the difference between Nick and I at the moment is I tried all the time. He doesn't. You know, for whatever reason. I'm not, you know, Sigmund Freud. I wish I was, because I like Nick, and, you know, I'd say it'd be good for the sport. Obviously, it'd be good for him. That goes without saying. I think Nick's a real nice kid. And
is he getting past his time, though? Is he getting past that opportunity window?
Well, because he's going to run himself out of the game at this point, which I don't want to see, but that's what's going to happen. It's as clear as day.
In January, John McEnroe will join the Australian Open commentary team in Melbourne. Who's the best you've ever seen as an all-rounder?
Roger and Rafa. And then after that, I put Rod and Laver and Sampras and Djokovic is getting there. After that, you know, I'm just hoping I'm still in the top 10.
The truth is, McEnroe still backs himself against the world's best. He was once famously offered $1 million by the now President Trump to play Serena or Venus Williams in a battle of the sexes match. He never took up that bet, but even now, as he approaches 60, he's still tempted.
It's not something I ever wanted to do, honestly, but it's something that I'm always asked. I don't know why I'm the guy. Why don't you ask somebody else? You know, go ask any of the other players or, you know, whoever the hell it is. It's always me that somehow it's like, I'm the one. You know, it started in Australia 20 years ago because Serena and Venus, when they were, I think, 18 and 19 or whatever it was, we can, you know, play with the guys or beat the guys. So the short answer is, as of this moment, if I trained properly and worked hard, I still believe that I could do it.
You see, and that's exactly why they asked you.
Well, I'm not going to say. I'll tell you if I didn't. I mean, I'm getting closer to not being sure. Let's put it that way.
Hello, I'm Liam Bartlett. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.